about how being your team's friend and being liked is actually the worst way to increase your team's performance. Now, I know because this has come up quite a bit, but at times we really value, especially right now, value things like being compassionate and an empathetic leader. And yet at times, if we go too far and we become more the friend or friendly, it's going to get in your way of actually creating that high performing team and getting the performance from your team members that you need in order to get results for your organization and for yourself. Before I get into that, I just wanted to give a quick reminder. There's less than 24 hours left on the giveaway. There's those 5 sessions that I'm giving away to women leaders. This is really perfect for you if you're tired of working all the hours, you're ready to tackle one of your biggest leadership challenges you're facing right now. And we will go deep into the strategy of that during this 60-minute session. So DM me giveaway for a chance to grab your seat there. So, or at least a chance to win it. And you find, we'll do that. I was going to say you all should share the post, but if you happen to come across the post and share it, that's fantastic as well. All right. So let's get into this about why being your team's friend and wanting to be liked is really getting in the way, right? Because I know I get it, really, honestly, I do. Because especially for girls, ever since we've been born, we have been really taught to get along and be part of a team. And really, who hasn't wanted to be the most popular person in school or be even more popular than you were? So I really understand why you're confusing being liked with being respected. Except I want you to consider that a leadership is like parenting or similar to parenting. It's not about being your child's best friend all the time, but it's about providing the guidance, setting the boundaries, and teaching valuable lessons. Even if there are moments when the child might not like what the parent decides or what the rule is, the respect and the trust of the child that has for the parent doesn't diminish, okay? Because it is still their parent, right? They still understand that their parents, let's not talk about the teenage years, but in general, those children will understand that as a parent, you're doing it for their best interest. In fact, one of the things that you could become so focused on to ensure that your team and others like you, that you end up becoming an ineffective leader if you continue working in this belief that you need to be liked, you need to be a friend, you need to be to grab that performance or to create that performance from your team. All right, so what could you do? Because of course, I'm not here today just to kind of say like, okay, you've got to stop being nice. You need to stop being a friend. We need to actually have something concrete to do. But before I get into that, I wanted to share an example. So for example, and this came up in a conversation that I had this week with a woman leader who had a team member who had gotten multiple pieces of advice from herself as well as other senior leaders and wasn't taking that advice at all. And she was struggling with this of like, well, that action would actually facilitate an organizational result that we need to achieve. Yet I've done everything I could possibly have done. I've given this person the advice and they're not taking it. Here's where this friendliness, even that sense of being compassionate and empathetic boss or leader can get in your way. We need to be flexible in how your leadership style is. So for example, if you are seeing, in this example specifically, when you're seeing things that are happening within the team that or a team member isn't taking the advice, so in other words, isn't coachable at that moment in time, then you may need to step in and be more directive and take on a more authoritative leadership style at that moment in time and simply allow no other option. Now, I know that could be a little controversial, and I know that it's like, well, we're supposed to make sure that we keep our team members happy, etc. Yes. And you are also still have a responsibility for your role as well as for your organization. So at times you will need to step into much more of an authoritative leadership style in that case. Let me know if that makes some sense just drop it in the comments. Or if you've got questions, feel free at any point in time to DM me your questions or put them in the comments. I will go through and I'm happy to answer any questions you've got, of course, as well as just let me know if this topic makes sense to you or if this is something that you're struggling with as well and what you get out of this from today. All right, let's get into what else you could do, because it's not just important to just do the one, thing. I want you to leave you with a couple things today. And this is all coming from my strategic influence as well as the decisive courage pillars of my Leadership Edge program. So these are elements that we do cover within my 6-month coaching program. All right. So when you're looking to build more respect as well, in some ways, as well as more, in the case of this leader I'd spoken to this week, of getting your team members to take the action that you've advised several times, but now it just needs to get done. What you do then is those leaders that are most respected communicate very clearly and directly, and they hold their teams accountable. Okay, so can you find me any respected leader, whether in your network, whether a past leader that you've respected, that did not communicate directly or hold their teams accountable? I haven't. So if you have an example, I would love to hear it, but I have not found one that was a respected leader who also communicated directly and held their teams accountable. So what could you do? Now, for example, within the Leadership Edge strategic influence pillar, you discover to start being intentional about establishing clear expectation and team norms. I want you to stop hiding behind complexity or even technical jargon or a pile of information that you're giving to your team members or to others around you, if that's the case. I want you to be very direct. And one thing I want you to remember, among several things, of course, but one thing right now is kindness. You don't need to stop being kind, but clarity and directness is really a form of kindness. Because what you're doing is the intention behind your directness, your intention around stating exactly what you mean, or in the example that I shared, the intention behind being more authoritative. So like that, let's go for that word today. Authoritative, and just actually stating this action is what you're going to be taking. The intention is an act of kindness in the sense that you are looking out for the best interests of your organization, of the role and the responsibilities that you have, as well as the expectations and the responsibilities that your team member has within their role in order to be able to facilitate and excel within their own career and in their own role at this moment in time. So the first step, again, is be direct. Stop hiding behind any complexity, technical jargon, or a ton of information. So if, for example, you find yourself in that same similar situation where you have to tell a team member, listen, I need you to take this specific action. You will do this by, don't leave it open-ended. So you want to give it by a specific date. You don't want to then cloud that with all kinds of reasoning of like, well, I think this is really good for you because, well, you've been advised of this several times. All of that just is simply additional information that you use to justify your request or the action that needs to be taken. So ask yourself, when you're providing a lot of information or a lot of context or adding complexity, is this clear and concise and direct? Does this help your team member or the others involved with you directly in how they need to function and what they need, the tasks that they need to take on, what you've communicated? Or is this supporting you in terms of how you justify the request that you're making? All right, so that is one. Number two, I want you to start really thinking about understanding your audience. So whether that's your team member or your entire team or different meetings that you're in, about whether or not there are individuals or in a group and what, for example, is their dominant communication or learning style. So there are a couple of different learning styles. There's 4 of them. I'm just going to share with you one of them today. So one of them, for example, is kinesthetic. Now, this is more about that you need to feel. These are the types of individuals that learn by doing. And I want you to then adjust your language so that you communicate in a way that suits them, right? So they will be the type of people, if you're going to communicate with someone that has kinesthetic, are much more of the ones that are like, do you feel like this is something that you could do? Is this, what steps would you be taking in order to complete this task, right? So you're really starting to get them into that sense of the mindset of like, what do I need to do and how can I do it? Again, kinesthetic, I'm only sharing one type. There's 4 different ones, but this one type helps you communicate in a way that is actually more effective and more influential for that person that you are communicating with. Okay, so that is 2. I only have 2 today. Sorry. I think the heat has gotten into my mind. All right. So let's just talk about what we've covered today, right? We've been talking about the fact that being your team's friend or being liked does not make you, or is one of the worst ways to becoming a respected leader. Again, understand it because, especially for women, we've grown up with this premise of making sure that others liked us, being liked, being part of a team. However, as a leader, you also need to stand and take responsibilities for your role, for your organization, as well as the team. And that can mean that you need to be just and flexible in your leadership style. So only having that empathetic, the compassionate type of leadership style may actually be getting in your way. And this need to be liked by your team members, by your colleagues, is also, being their friend, is also getting in your way of taking on the responsibilities. Now, as I want to reiterate this, when you avoid being nice, it does not mean that you cannot be kind. So kindness is still possible by giving clear, direct communication. So when you're looking to build your respect as a leader and when you're wanting to get the respect from your team, make sure that you are communicating directly as well as holding your teams accountable. Now, that second point I haven't covered today. We'll cover that in another training session because I want to keep these little bite size. In terms of communicating directly, remember to be direct. You don't want you to hide behind the complexity or technical jargon or a ton of information. Just simply state what you mean. And 2, begin to understand the person that you're talking to, whether it's a group or an individual, as to what is their dominant learning style. And again, there are 4 different ones. We talked today about kinesthetic. That is the one you learn more by doing. And you want to adjust your language so that the way that you communicate with them while still being direct is actually more suited to them and their natural style of learning to pick it up and make it more easier on you. So my last question for you today is, do you want to keep working on being well-liked by your team and colleagues and possibly becoming an ineffective leader? Or would you rather focus on communicating directly so that you can lead more effectively, just like every respected leader has? If you're ready to change and become that respected leader, or you're just really wanting to up-level that leadership presence that you have and that flexibility that you have within your leadership styles and how you apply them with your team members as well as your colleagues or maybe even your senior managers, then let me know, DM me leader, and let's have a conversation. I've helped over 60 plus women leaders just like you through my courses and programs. So I know that you can get the results that you're looking to achieve and balance both the styles that you have for your leadership, as well as getting the results that you want within your role, as well as in your personal life. All right. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or DM me if you've got any questions as well. Always happy to answer any questions, and I will speak to you again soon. Have a great weekend.